The wheel, the invention that changed the world. The wheel, primarily used for transportation, has manifested itself in many different ways. From chariots to cars, every use of the wheel has given a new practical way to travel. One invention of the wheel decided to be simple and unique from all the rest. The most efficient of all wheel-based inventions, with needing only one wheel, the majestic unicycle. With one goal and one wheel, we as a group embarked on a journey of motor learning. The purpose of our project will be to explore and understand the motor learning process of riding a unicycle. In order to achieve this learning, practice is essential. Therefore, our project is about how we organize, attend, and incorporate specific learning principles into these practice sessions, which led to our learning of a new skill. Let us begin by first analyzing the task of riding a unicycle. The main goal is to acquire the balance needed to mount the unicycle, and then being able to move through the environment by applying the correct force to the pedals of the unicycle while not falling off. When riding a unicycle, there are unique problems to solve. One is maintaining balance through the skill. Second, being able to initiate the movement by mounting the unicycle without support. When classifying the skill according to Gentile's taxonomy, we find that it incorporates body transport, object manipulation, stationary regulatory context, since our environment did not change, with no intertrial variability, since we did not practice in crowded areas, nor did we change the surface we rode on. When riding a unicycle, there are certain prerequisites for success. Emotional ones include motivation to perform the task. Another is to free ourselves from fear of injury and negative evaluation from peers, because riding a unicycle can be seen as odd and sometimes socially unacceptable. These fears can inhibit us from participation in the task. Cognitive prerequisites for success. Understanding of the goal of the task. Knowledge of strategies for successful performance. Perceptual motor abilities. Steady power is applied to the pedals. Kinesthetic awareness of center of balance. Use of body asymmetrically. Integrate postural control and limb manipulation. Physical abilities. Fitness that is needed to perform riding a unicycle. The minimum leg strength to control steady power and abductors to manipulate the steering with the lower body. Minimal muscular endurance, and minimal strength and dynamic flexibility to balance and correct off balance when off-centered. The essential components of riding a unicycle. The beginning of the skill starts off by mounting the unicycle. The next phase is finding a center of gravity and maintaining the balance. Once we find our center of gravity, the following step is to asymmetrically alternate extension and flexion of our lower limbs to generate force for movement, aka cycling. The last step is a continuous phase, which is the most challenging. It is to maintain the balance and movement simultaneously while moving through the environment. For our study, practice was held twice a week on campus. Each session would last approximately 1 hour. The entire training regimen included a total of 6 practice sessions. Initially, we began practice on a field and found out quickly that learning to ride a unicycle was a huge challenge. We then moved practice next to some railing for support. The first few weeks focused on mounting and dismounting the unicycle with support. Once proper mounting and dismounting technique had been established, participants worked to achieve adequate stationary balance. Ultimately, controlled forward motion on the unicycle was the final goal. To measure that goal, we recorded how long we rode the unicycle until we fell off. Time and revolutions of the pedals were recorded at the beginning and end of each practice session for each participant. Learning principles. The 3 learning principles we used were augmented feedback, part practice, and demonstration. Augmented feedback, specifically knowledge of results, was very apparent when we fell off the unicycle. The process of learning was a trial and error until we learned how to properly balance on the unicycle. Part practice. The process of riding a unicycle is a complex skill, so we strove to simplify it by taking out some of the majority of the balance component by using the rail. Demonstration. By reviewing this YouTube video, we were able to pick up on some of the invariant features on how to properly ride a unicycle.
Results. Here are our results for each practice session after measuring time and revolutions of pedals on the unicycle. It is important to note that all the data shown is time spent on the unicycle while using the railing. We never got past part practice and therefore never learned how to successfully mount the unicycle without support. We technically failed at successfully learning how to ride the unicycle. Although that is true, learning did occur. Day 1, as we can see here, starts off with little to no progress, but there is progressive progress throughout the practice sessions as we look at the graphs for both time and revolutions. Because the skill is never fully learned, there is not a chance for an authentic transfer test. One thing to mention, though, is Rocky's progress, which was significantly better than the rest. Because he has such better progress, he felt comfortable enough to try to attempt to mount the unicycle without support. That is the closest example we had to a transfer test.
Discussion. Starting with our pre-test and in the early learning phases, it is easy to see that our movement patterns were inconsistent and inefficient. The freezing of our primary movers is an attempt for our body to simplify the skill. Although we were unable to master the skill, we were able to significantly increase our flexibility and movements. Although we were unable to fully learn the skill once again, we did make slow improvements regarding to revolutions and time spent on the unicycle. We felt that learning did occur due to the improved range of motion around our force-producing joints, as well as a more consistent and efficient maintenance of balance throughout the skill. We agree that the most effective training principle would have to have been the simplification and part practice of the skill. This helped to support us on the unicycle and gave us the time needed to pedal and learn how to maintain our balance. The least effective training principle would be demonstration. Although it was helpful in the beginning, it is difficult to discern and perceive the technique required for balance while looking at demonstration. Balance was the most difficult aspect of riding the unicycle, and it was mostly learned through the part practice and the augmented feedback. Unicycling is a highly complex skill. Therefore, more time and more practice is needed in order to master it. 6 sessions were not enough to completely acquire the skill. As a result of this assignment, the most important thing that we have learned and will use in our future teachings and learning is that everyone learns differently, and different types of learning principles will be more beneficial for different learners. The most important lesson that we are taking away from this experience is how important it is to create an effective learning plan that includes simplifying the skill and progressing it accordingly until the whole skill can be practiced. Integration of the learning experience. We were able to implement our understanding of the human anatomy to be aware of which muscles to focus on for balance and core stabilization. Sports psych imagery, goal setting, positive self-talk, positive feedback, and vigor were incorporated.